皆さん、また来てくださってありがとうございます。こちらは、マンハッタン、ニューヨーク、火曜日の午後です。ということでね、今日の動画はね、2つをくっつけた、ちょっとね、長めの動画になるので、お暇な時に見てください。先週のね、ディベートからいろいろなことがいろんなことが起きたんですよ。で、本当にいろんなのを乗っけてようと思って、上げてたんですけど、なんかちょっと長くなっちゃうので、前回の動画は、ニッキー・ヘイリーさんが共和党なのになんでこんな戦争やりたがってるんだろうって言ってて、例えばクリス・クリスティさんにペンス、ニッキー・ヘイリーさん、この3人はウクライナにもっと予算をつけるとか、もっとやるって言ってて、で、ビベックさんが、これ戦争屋さんって本当にいるんだと思って、戦争をやりたい人が民主党にも共和党にもいるんだなっていうことで、今日上げる短い動画は、またこれね、タッカーカールソンさんがニッキー・ヘイリーさんにこのディベートの前に聞いてるやつで、タイトルがタッカーカールソンネオコンぶった切るみたいなの書いてあったんですよ。で、私主婦だからネオコンっていうのも何か知らなくって調べてみたんですね、その定義を。そしたらネオコンサバティブですから、新しい保守主義っていうことで、どういうベースかっていうと、結局権威主義なんですね。戦争を好む傾向があって、権威主義。ベースには、私たちはあなたより偉い。そして私たちはそれを知っている。で、こういう主義っていうことは、本当に極左とそっくりなんですよね、なんか。みんなの意見を尊重するんじゃなくて、我々があんたたちより偉いから、あなたたちは従いなさいっていう感じに受けたんですね、私は。だから、これがネオコンなんだって思って、だから、ネオコンをぶった切るって言って、それがニッキー・ヘイリーさんだったんですね。だから、それを、タッカー・カールソンさんが上手に聞いているんですよ。で、それを乗っけるのと、もう一個は、弾劾がね、そろそろ週明けから始まっていく、9月に向けて始まっていくっていうことで、ジョーバイデンのとうとう。それで、流れ的にいくと、証拠がどんどん出てきた。それが7月ぐらいから始まりましたよね。まずは国税庁の内部告発者の証言。そして、その週の水曜日にハンター・バイデンの司法取引が失敗。そして、ハンター・バイデンのビジネスパートナーであるデボン・アーチャーの国会での証言、ジョー・バイデンが知っていたと。で、ここに来て今日上げるビデオは、プリズマの汚職を調べていたウクライナの元検事総長、ショーケンさん、ハンター・バイデンが恐喝して、クビにさせたショーケンさんが FOX の独占インタビューに出ていらっしゃるので見てください。ちょっと長いんですけど見てくださいね。どうぞ。
There were two things our enemies never wanted us to have. They never wanted us to be energy independent, and they never wanted us to have a strong military. We have to always have both of those things.
Well, speaking of energy and the military, who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline?
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not claiming you did it.
No.
I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Do you know who did it?
Seems pretty obvious. It was backed by the Biden administration, I would say. I mean, I think all the evidence suggests that, but I wasn't there. But I mean, that seems like a huge step. This is the largest industrial sabotage in history, sent more carbon in the atmosphere than any act ever. And there's weirdly no curiosity about who did it, and I think that's strange. Why do you think
there's a lot of things that are strange with the Biden administration? This is the first one.
What I'm really saying is, if you were running against the Biden administration, to do something like that and shaft our closest allies in the world, which would be Western Europe, and deprive them of the energy they need to run their manufacturing sector and destroy their economy, which it is in the process of doing. That's a major sin to have done something like that. You just betrayed our allies, and no one on the right is accusing the Bidens of what they clearly did. So I don't know why.
Well, no one is accusing the Bidens aren't being accountable on anything. I mean, you look at the cocaine that was just found in there. I mean, that's a whole nother issue.
ということでいかがだったでしょうか。もう本当にね、タッカー・カールソンさんっていうのはね、すごく鋭い質問をギリギリっとしてくるんですよね。本当に同盟国がって言ってるんだったらば、これはおかしいんじゃないでしょうかっていう、この なんていうか辻褄が合わないところをバシッと聞いてくるんですよね。ということで急にニッキーさんはコカインの話をすり替えていました。ということで次のお題へどうぞ。
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Okay, Congresswoman, let's back up. We've got reports from Just the News. Obama officials at the State Department, Treasury, and DOJ, also CIA officials, did applaud and cheer on Shokin on anti-corruption reforms in early 2015. And then Biden, lead of their year, threatens to withhold $1 billion in aid if Shokin is not fired. Shokin was probing Burisma. Your reaction to this story?
It's finally coming out. I mean, look, Trump talked about his perfect phone call. There couldn't be anything worse than Biden's arrogant comment and his just blatant bribery that he's talking about in plain sight. This is an impeachable offense. We've seen this tape roll so many times. And look, the chairman or the president of Burisma, this energy company, is told the FBI informant that they paid two $5 million payments, one to Joe Biden in a pseudonym and one to Hunter Biden, in order to get this done. So they'd stop looking into the probe. And what do you know? Just like Joe Biden wanted, Shokin was fired. And even as you cited earlier in the lead, President Obama's people were saying, yeah, this guy was doing a good job cleaning up the mess. And so here we have Joe Biden. I just think it couldn't be more blatant than anything. This guy needs to be impeached and removed ASAP.
Yeah, Victoria Nuland, Obama State Department official, said, yeah, Shokin's doing a good job, right? You had George Kent, Obama State Department official, testifying major conflicts of interest for Hunter Biden to be at Burisma. So why did Joe Biden think it was okay to have Hunter Biden work at Ukraine's Burisma? I mean, its co-founder allegedly paid a $7 million bribe to officials in Ukraine's prosecutor's office to shut down the case against him in 2014. That was 7 months after he hired Hunter to sit on the board. And then you got Joe Biden going in there, giving a speech saying we're going to get Shokin fired if we're going to withhold $1 billion in aid. So why did Joe Biden think it was okay from the get-go for Hunter Biden to even be in this rattlesnake's nest of corruption?
I don't think he cares. Arrogant. Joe's always been corrupt and always been dirty. And the mainstream media has always given him a pass. And remember, Victoria Nuland was the star of Trump's impeachment, talking about Trump's, the so-called perfect phone call. The Democrats always project. The corruption was there. They knew it, so they tried to transfer that on to President Trump and hoping it would go away. Now we have it. It's in plain sight. The Bidens are trying to cover up, whether they're using Merrick Garland or they're using Attorney General Weiss out of Delaware, who was wrongly appointed as the special prosecutor. And now we need to act as a Congress. We need to go forward. I don't see how any Democrat can vote against this unless they're purely partisan.
Be an impeachment inquiry after Labor Day launch, because the media, including the Washington Post, Atlantic magazine, they're saying there's more than enough evidence to launch a serious investigation. That is a major problem if the Vice President and President Joe Biden. Will there be an impeachment inquiry after Labor Day?
There will be an impeachment. Maybe we'll do an inquiry first, but we're going to reach an impeachment. It has to be done. When you see the mainstream media who have covered for the Bidens and the Biden family for all this long, deciding it's time to discard Joe, that must mean that the rest of the Democrats are ready to discard Joe because they know it just looks too bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get some senators to go along with impeachment, and that's it for Joe Biden. But it's all going to take time to do this and put the evidence in.
Congresswoman Tenney, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good weekend.
Former Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin spilling the beans to Brian Kilmeade in an exclusive interview. Shokin believes Joe Biden and his son Hunter took bribes.
Why were you fired from your position by President Poroshenko?
I have said repeatedly in my previous interviews that Poroshenko fired me at the insistence of the then Vice President Biden because I was investigating Burisma.
So did President Poroshenko tell you that he wanted you to stay on the job, but there was pressure from Vice President Biden?
You understood me correctly. This is how it was. There were no complaints whatsoever, no problems with how I was performing at my job. But because pressure was repeatedly put on President Poroshenko, that is what ended up in him firing me.
What are your thoughts when you saw the tape of Vice President Biden speaking to the Council on Foreign Relations, saying you had 6 hours to fire you or you're not going to get the $1 billion.
Not only the position of President Poroshenko, the office of President Poroshenko was humiliated, but the entire country of Ukraine was humiliated. And I developed a very firm understanding of the fact that the vice president was only acting in his own interests. He, generally speaking, handled Ukraine like it was his own backyard. He would put people that were suitable for him, he would arrange for them to be put in certain positions.
Why were you looking into Burisma?
The reason I oversaw the Burisma case was because I was the prosecutor general. Burisma was an ordinary case. There wasn't anything particularly different about it. The reason that I was handling it was because it deserved a special mention. It was on a list of cases to merit special attention, because Hunter Biden was involved with Burisma, and of course his father, the vice president, Biden at the time, oversaw Ukraine affairs for the White House. This is why.
Understood. Do you believe they were up to no good? Were they up to doing something corrupt with Burisma? Was the company of Burisma corrupt, as been alleged, in which since has been disbanded?
I have no doubt that there were illegal activities engaged in by Burisma. As a matter of fact, the criminal case had been started before me. It continued to expand, and Zlochevsky, who at the time held the post of minister and was the founder and CEO of Burisma, started bringing in people who could provide protection for him. Hunter Biden was among them. And the corruption network expanded as a result. So, yes, to answer your question, there's no doubt in my mind that Burisma was engaged in illegal activities.
Devin Archer said you were a threat to Burisma. Do you agree?
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Why? Because you were going to find out what they were up to?
Because he understood, and so did Vice President Biden, that had I continued to oversee the Burisma investigation, we would have found the facts about the corrupt activities that they were engaging in, that included both Hunter Biden and Devin Archer and others.
What corrupt activities did you suspect they were engaged in?
It would take half a day for me to discuss every single count, but I can say that Burisma illegally produced, sold, and utilized gas. Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma, recently made a plea deal with the prosecution in a case where he was accused of giving a $6 million bribe, which is the kind of money that you don't just give away if you're not really engaging in anything illegal. So his plea deal was to cover up a $6 million bribe that he gave earlier.
Do you believe that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden got bribes?
I do not want to deal in unproven facts, but my firm personal conviction is that yes, this was the case. They were being bribed. The fact that Joe Biden gave away $1 billion in U.S. money in exchange for my dismissal, my firing, isn't that alone a case of corruption?
The New York Times writes, on this year's office, Shokin became a symbol of Ukraine's deeply ingrained culture of corruption. Wall Street Journal, something similar. Washington Post, something similar. What do you say to people who say it's you that are corrupt and that Joe Biden did the right thing making sure you were fired?
I would appreciate if any of these highly respectable publications could come up with a single instance or a single example of my personal corruption or any offense whatsoever allegedly committed by me.
Why don't you sue then? Why don't you sue these publications for defamation?
I would gladly do that, but suing somebody costs money, and I simply don't have the money to do that because I'm a retiree and my monthly pension constitutes the equivalent of $800.
Has this damaged America's reputation in Ukraine?
There is no doubt that his actions have damaged the U.S. reputation in Ukraine. It is public knowledge. Everybody knows that it was because of Joe Biden's actions that Russia was able to claim Crimea without firing a single shot, which of course eventually led to a full-scale war that is currently underway. But yes, the damage has been done, definitely. I have long been concerned about my personal safety and security. I've already died technically twice, as I was poisoned with mercury.
Viktor Shokin, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.